Warning. The following video contains scenes of graphic violence. Viewer discretion is advised.
Rainbow Dash's hooves echoed off the walls of the empty bakery. She had been expecting the hum of Sugar Cube Corner's giant ovens, whirring food mixers, and the perpetual cheery humming of a pink pony bouncing between them. Without those familiar noises, the cafe was downright eerie.
Pinkie Pie?
With growing unease, she rounded the door that led to the shop front. It, too, was empty. This wasn't right. The traditional lunch rush should be over, and the booths occupied by those regular customers who nursed cups of coffee as they poured through the jobs section of the newspaper, while harried mothers grabbed a few blissful moments of peace as foals slept in their strollers. There was not so much as a speck of pastry in any of the display cases. The percolator stood empty, and the door sign had been turned to closed.
Pinkie Pie?
Apprehension swathed Dash's voice.
This is a prank, isn't it? Haha! You got me! You can jump out and I'll totally pretend to be scared. And then we can get to baking cupcakes like you said. Unless you didn't mean it when you said you needed my help today. Pinkie Pie? Was this all just a ruse to get me over here so you could pull a prank on me?
Dash frowned.
Or a surprise party for my half-birth anniversary?
It was as good an explanation as any.
Mrs. Cake? Mr. Cake? Cheese sandwich? Is anyone here?
Still, no pony replied. Dash stopped in the middle of the floor and stomped a hoof.
Ugh! Celestia, damn it!
She hated when ponies managed to prank her. Her pride zinged, and old embarrassment welled up with memories of Mare Duell's fluttering cape and her friends' faces smeared in rainbow cookie. Incidents like those always left her smiling on the outside, but inwardly reeling for days. She was not eager for another such experience.
Screw this! I'm out of here!
Trotting purposefully back to the service door that she had used to get in, she was halted by a sudden clang of metal. She looked around. Was Pinkie about to yell, "Gotcha"?
What the hey?
Her eyes rounded as they beheld Not the kitchen she expected, but a large atrium. It stretched so far above that the metal pipes lining the walls disappeared into darkness before they reached wherever the ceiling lay. Industrial noises assaulted her ears. Had they just appeared, or had she somehow been hearing them all along and somehow tuned them out? They felt far too familiar to have just started randomly. Then again, she had randomly just found an unfamiliar room where Sugar Cube Corner kitchen should be. Something screwy was definitely going on here.
Twilight, if this is another one of your spells gone wrong and messing up the town.
She had not completely forgotten what it was like to bear Fluttershy's cutie mark. Slivers of memory slipped through sometimes. A rabbit's paw striking her cheek. Aching regret while clumsily trying to deliver stillborn kittens. Rope against her wings as a bear grappled her into a cauldron. She suspected that none of her friends had forgotten either, but they all cared too much about Twilight to tell her. Dash knew that even now, Rarity sometimes woke from nightmares of accidentally striking ponies with a rogue lightning bolt, and Pinkie Pie avoided using apples in her baking a lot more than she did before the night of Twilight's ascension. Giggling lanced through her thoughts.
Pinkie?
It was coming from somewhere in the shadows. Dash crept forward, realized what she was doing, and drew herself up tall.
Pinkie Pie?
The giggle came again, but now she heard a rasp in it that had never adorned Pinkie Pie's high voice. This voice sat scratchily between high and low tones, as if the speaker had worn it out, either yelling or smoking. The echo lent to it by the room's large size did nothing to help Dash identify its owner. Her wings flared.
Who's there? What have you done with Pinkie Pie? Did you do this to Sugar Cube Corner?
This time, the voice came from behind her.
You're not in Sugar Cube Corner, Dashy.
Dash whirled. Pinkie's nickname, but not Pinkie's voice. What the heck was this?
You're confused, aren't you? How pathetic. You rotted your brain as well as your wings by living on the ground?
Dash's joints ached from holding her wings rigid. Damn it, she hated getting older.
Show yourself!
That giggle again, now from a different direction. It sounded like broken glass shaken inside a metal tube.
Are you sure it's me you want to see, Dashy?
Something in the way the voice leaned on the nickname made Dash's neck prickle. She turned in a small circle, trying to get a bead on the speaker's location.
If you've heard Pinkie, I swear I'll...
You what?
Snarled the voice, all humor gone. It was directly above her now. How the heck was the owner moving so fast around such a huge room?
Cry like a little bitch over a worthless earth pony?
Show yourself!
You really are pathetic.
The voice reverberated from Dash's left.
How do you even live with yourself?
She spun around to be confronted with an enormous metal machine she could have sworn was not there before. It loomed like a giant rotting mouth, spiked teeth held wide to the distant ceiling. Dash stared. The razor edges of those teeth were streaked with red. Tufts of blue and orange fur clung to the stickiness. A cheery apron dangled, fabric saturated with gore. Dash's gorge rose. She tasted bile.
Oh, I suppose earth ponies are useful for one thing. The same thing as all worthless ponies and failures. They make pretty good pigment when we're running low. Dashy?
Dash jerked her head up so fast she heard vertebrae crunch. A Pegasus with jet black fur hovered over the machine. Just as with the industrial noises, Dash heard the pony's wings clearly now, but could not remember them starting to beat. Nor did she have the wherewithal to question this further strangeness, for sagging from the Pegasus's grip was a familiar pink pony.
Dashy!
Pinky's face was mottled with bruises, her left eye swollen shut, her towering mane flopped around her face, and the corner of her mouth dripped with blood. All 4 of her legs bent at impossible angles. It was sickening to see.
Dashy! Help!
Pinky's plea became a yelp as the black Pegasus tossed her effortlessly at the machine. It roared to life, teeth rotating on rollers, shredding the last of the bloody apron. A rubber chicken shrieked as it, too, was chewed up. Dash took off. The distance was not too far, and she was fast enough. She could catch Pinky before something cannoned into her from a completely different direction. She rocketed back, caught off guard. She twisted, trying to buck off her attacker, but her hind hooves pedaled uselessly in the air. Strong forelegs held her throat, pressing down on her windpipe. Dash stared up into eyes so filled with hate, it took her a moment to realize the other Pegasus's fur was not black, but covered in a black bodysuit that covered every inch of their body, aside from their eyes. Pinky's cry cut off abruptly. The machine thundered. Over the hateful Pegasus's shoulder, Dash saw red liquid and pink fur erupt into the air. A chunk of sugary pink tail wafted through the air like a carnival balloon released by an incautious foal.
Pathetic!
Eyes locked on the awfulness she had been unable to prevent. Dash realized too late they were flying straight for the hard metal floor.
Bye, Dashy.
Impact. Dash sat up with a gasp.
What the... Oh!
She had flown to the ceiling before she realized her wings were moving. Below her, Applejack startled awake so hard she fell out of bed. One orange hoof grabbed the edge of the mattress and levered herself into a sitting position.
Rainbow? What's the matter?
Dash struggled for air. Her body tingled with the memory of hitting the floor. She tried to regulate her breathing like she taught new recruits before they braved the Dizzytron.
Sugar Cube?
Applejack's frown became concerned.
Talk to me. What's wrong?
Dash looked around. Same familiar bedroom. Same Sweet Apple Acres. Same patchwork bedspread. Same everything she was used to. Outside, the moon hung low in a star-speckled sky. She hovered back down to the bed.
Nothing. Nightmare.
She hated the tremor in her voice.
Just a nightmare.
Another one?
It's no big deal.
No big deal.
Applejack arched an eyebrow.
You remember I was once the element of honesty, right?
Dash sighed, offering a foreleg to help her wife back into bed.
It just felt really real is all. But it was just a nightmare.
Want to talk about it?
Usually, Dash could not remember the contents of her nightmares, aside from a vague sense of being glad to leave them behind. But tonight, she recalled those hate-filled eyes with crystal clarity. She shook her head.
Not really.
Applejack stared at her for a moment.
This one really gave you the willies, didn't it?
Dash looked away.
Don't poke fun.
Wasn't gonna.
Applejack slid a hoof around her shoulders and pulled her closer.
I ain't no pony who's brave all the time, sweetheart. You're entitled to be upset by a bad dream. Sometimes our own brains are our worst enemies because they know exactly what'll rattle us most. Remember how we was all fiddle-dee-dee when the Tanibus tortured us with that stuff that scared us? No pony judged you then, did they?
Dash wriggled uncomfortably. She had told few ponies the true nature of her cute flowers nightmare. This time, however, her dream was disturbing in an entirely different way. She could not forget how vibrantly her sleeping mind had conjured Pinkie Pie's death. What did it say about her that she could picture it so vividly?
You've been stressed at work lately. Might be you're so tough for so long in your waking hours, your brain shoved all your stress into your dreams for you to process what you're worried about.
Was she worried something bad might happen to Pinkie and her family? She had not seen them for the past few weeks, but they'd all been so busy.
Maybe.
Would you like to try sleeping again? Or would you prefer we head downstairs and I make us some apple tea to settle your nerves?
We got any hard cider left?
Not at 3 in the morning, we don't.
I guess tea is good then. But you don't need to get up. You need your sleep after making all that Zap Apple jam.
Hush.
Applejack leaned over to kiss her forehead.
Mwah. If my wife had a nightmare that freaked her out, I ain't gonna leave her to stew on it by herself. Plus, you know I don't trust you alone in my kitchen.
Sugar Belle says it's her kitchen.
Applejack sniffed. That argument was an ongoing one.
Come on, let's go make some tea.
The rest of the night passed with the two mares downing cup after cup of sweetened apple tea until dawn. Big Mac and Sugar Belle appeared right after the sun kissed the horizon, surprised to find their spot at the kitchen table already occupied. A savagely well-mannered tussle ensued over who got to make Bright Bramley's breakfast. Rainbow Dash took comfort from the familiarity of Applejack and Sugar Belle politely reminding each other that she was the queen of this kitchen, you hear?
It's fine, Applejack, dear.
Sugar Belle simpered. A muscle in her jaw jumped under her smile.
I am more than capable of feeding my own son, and I know this kitchen like the back of my hoof. I can handle breakfast.
I know you can, Sugar Cube.
Applejack simpered right back, teeth clenched in a rictus Dash was pretty sure was meant to be a smile.
You're more than capable of treating this here kitchen like the one in your shop, which you own, and can do what you want with because it's yours and yours alone, unlike this one, which is a family kitchen shared by all, and in which I learned how to bake and cook when I was just a fella.
Big Mac raised an eyebrow at his sister. Applejack ignored him.
I know you're capable, Sugar Belle, but it's no trouble, honest. And if I say honest, you know I'm being honest, on account of I'm the element of honesty.
Sugar Belle sniffed.
Well, you were. The elements have been in the Tree of Harmony for years.
That don't mean I stopped embodying my element. I'm honest as the day is long, just like Dash is loyal to her kin and friends both. Ain't that right, Dash?
Dash resisted the urge to raise her forehooves and ask them to leave her out of it.
Sure, I'm totes still the embodiment of loyalty. Always have been, always will be.
For a moment, she remembered her dream from the night before and shuddered. Loyalty meant never leaving friends behind or letting them get hurt. Sugar Belle's voice pulled Dash back to the present.
That's funny. I seem to recall both of you having moments of not embodying your elements at all. Applejack has lied and been dishonest. And as for you, Rainbow Dash...
Watch it.
Applejack's smile was fixed in place, but her green eyes flashed.
Careful what you say about my wife, Sugar Cube.
Hey now,
Said Big Mac in his usual laconic manner.
we're all family here. Let's keep this civil.
Sugar Belle and Applejack both sighed. This was how things always ended, with the stallion who connected them breaking their stalemate.
Sorry, Sugar Belle. I'm a little fractious this morning. Being that, I shouldn't be taking it out on you, though.
I'm sorry too, Applejack. Meg is right. I shouldn't get personal just to win an argument.
However, when Sugarbelle busied herself throwing together crepes in less time than Dash took to finish her mug, Applejack turned away, folding her forelegs and grumbling under her breath.
Apple cinnamon oatmeal was plenty good enough for his dad and Anna's while we was growing up. It'd be fine for Bright Bramley too if she'd ever let him try it.
Dash reached beneath the table and gave her wife's leg a reassuring squeeze. Applejack returned it. They fell to talking about their plans for the day.
Twilight wants us to speak with her soon before we have our Council of Friendship meeting up in Canerlaw. Some about Luster Dawn not believing friendship is worth a whit if you can learn it all from books.
Sounds familiar.
Dash downed the last of her tea. Her nightmare-inspired uneasiness had subsided, and, though the harshest recollections still lurked, most of the dream had faded, as all dreams are wont to do when faced with the waking world.
When does she want us there?
Oh, around 3 o'clock or so. We can get the midday train. Plenty of time to mosey on over to the castle from the station.
Applejack squinted out of the window.
Also gives me time to fix that busted water chute before we leave. I've been meaning to get to that for a while.
I can do it.
Can you do it right?
Rainbow Dash pouted.
Why do you always say that when I offer to do chores for you?
Because you can barely do your own chores around here without me needing to follow after you fixing what you did wrong.
How harsh.
Applejack's brow creased in regret.
Oh, I didn't mean it to come out that way, hun. Sorry. I phrased that poorly. Lack of sleep sharpened my tongue a mite, I reckon. And don't you go feeling guilty over that. You told me to go back to bed and I said no.
Dash's wings clamped firmer to her sides. She stared into her empty mug.
Still, let me hope. I think I need to keep busy this morning before we head off. Keep my brain occupied.
Applejack studied her for a moment, then swiveled in her chair.
Sugarbelle, you still planning to make stuff for the school bake sale today?
Sure am.
Sugarbelle replied from the stove.
It's my kitchen after all.
Dash could practically hear Applejack's teeth grind, but she kept her voice pleasant.
Could Dash help?
That made Sugarbelle turn.
Rainbow Dash? Wants to help me bake?
She did not infuse her tone with much credence.
It's not that I want
Sure
to.
she does.
Applejack cut Dash off.
We're set to catch the midday train, but until then, she'd love to help with the prep work to bake some treats for Bright Bramley School. Wouldn't you, sweetheart?
Rainbow Dash resisted the urge to raise her middle pin feather at her beloved wife, whose smug grin was so infectious it made Dash want to kiss it right off her face.
Sure, honey bunch. We're going to be late!
We ain't gonna be late.
We're going to miss our train!
We ain't gonna miss the train.
They were, indeed, late. But, thankfully, the Equestrian National Rail Service was dependably awful, and the delayed locomotive sat waiting as if just for them in Ponyville Station. Applejack and Rainbow Dash bustled aboard, their arguing playful, and their smiles genuine.
If you'd let me help you fix the water chute, you would have been done sooner.
You were the one who didn't want to leave till you'd beaten your record for how many pears you could core and mash in an hour.
That's different.
Eventually, the train departed, and they settled in for the familiar monthly journey to see their friends. Applejack tucked the basket of goodies Sugarbelle had made for them under her seat, stifling a yawn behind her hoof.
You should nap on the journey, so you're rested and can enjoy yourself properly when we see the others.
Applejack's voice was distorted by another yawn.
Excuse me, which element were you again?
She smiled and rolled her eyes.
Maybe 40 winks might be a nice idea. Can I use you for a pillow?
Always.
Dash opened her wing and allowed her wife to snuggle against her side before pressing the wing back down in a firm embrace to stop her falling off the seat.
Just don't snore.
I don't snore.
Element of lying.
Soon enough, Applejack's breathing lengthened, and Dash felt her body relax. Applejack carried so much tension in her frame, it was a wonder she was as agile as she continued to be as they entered middle age. On a whim, Dash inhaled the scent of her, apples and earth, and a bit of sweat underneath it all. It was a smell that she was intimately familiar with, and which she never tired of. Sometimes she wondered what her life might have been like had she not plucked up the courage to ask her best friend on that first date so long ago. No iteration of her life where she and Applejack were not a couple appealed to her. She loved being a Wonderbolt, but she had matured enough that she recognized her job would be hollow if it was the only thing she valued in life. Love was where true meaning resided. As her mind wandered back to days long gone, when she and Applejack were muddling their way through the transition from friends to lovers, Dash's blinks got longer. Finally, her eyes closed and did not reopen. Her wings stayed protectively around Applejack, but the rest of her body relaxed and her head flopped back, allowing a loud snore to reverberate around the train carriage. She jolted awake. That voice. She recognized that voice. Images she had tried to tamp down surged to the forefront of her mind. Pinky's broken legs, the spray of red, a machine stuffed with rolling spikes.
This is just a dream. I must have fallen asleep.
Married a stinking fucking earth pony! What the fuck is wrong with you?
Her seat disappeared from under her, and she went sprawling. It was so sudden that she had no time to brace herself and lost her grip on Applejack.
I mean, I knew you were pathetic, but this?
Dash scrambled to her hooves. All around her stretched metal flooring and tangles of grimy pipes. The rumble in her ears was no longer that of the train, but an industrial scraping and whirring. She felt it vibrating through her legs, strangely real for a dream. Maybe this was a lucid dream, like when Princess Luna had come into their nightmares and they had known things weren't real and been able to interact with them differently.
I'm dreaming. This is my dream, so I control things here.
Dash closed her eyes.
And I want to see my wife.
But you don't control things here! You stupid whore!
A punch snapped Dash's head around. She felt it, felt the cold metal of the floor when she landed on it. Stupid lucid dreams.
You were never meant to exist! I can't even believe that you exist! How dare you exist!
Dash struggled to get up, but another punch laid her low. She caught sight of a black-clad leg before it drove into her midriff. Air whooshed from her lungs. The pain felt too damn real. She curled around it, tasting bile.
Pathetic! You don't deserve happiness!
Another kick. She used her wings to push off and roll away, only to have her attacker jump and land hard on one. Dash screamed. She could not help it. Dream or not, she felt the bones break. The other pony stamped again and again, grinding and crunching the delicate feathers into mangled clumps of bloody tendons and torn skin. She barely noticed when the weight of the other pony lifted off her. Fire crawled through her veins. Magma raced through the ventricles of her frantically beating heart.
If I can't be happy after all I sacrificed, why should you get to be happy when you sacrificed nothing?
Through her own pulse in her ears, Dash heard a horribly wet crunch and Applejack's cry.
Nothing except your pride is a Pegasus!
Dash opened her eyes to see the body-suited pony from her previous dream flapping upwards, holding Applejack under her forelegs so that her hind legs dangled in empty air. Applejack's face was a mess from an obviously broken snout. Blood and spit decorated one of the Pegasus's forehooves.
No.
Up and up the Pegasus flew. Dash instinctively tried to open her wings to give chase. Agony radiated across her back. Her wings felt like they had been set on fire. Pain made her legs boneless. She fell to her knees.
This isn't real!
She thought desperately.
This isn't real! This isn't real! This isn't real! I don't want to see this! Wake up! Wake up!
That broken glass giggle echoed above her. Dash could see Applejack's wide, terrified green eyes getting further and further away. Her name became a shriek as the other Pegasus powered toward the floor at impossible speed. Dash reached out, but in what felt like a heartbeat, they had made a full descent. The other Pegasus let go and pulled out of the dive. Applejack smashed into the floor at full velocity, body erupting in a spray of viscera, bone fragments, and blood. An explosion of colours ignited in an ever-expanding ring that crashed into Dash like a freight train, bowling her over. Her ruined wings were crushed under her as she rolled over and over, losing all sense of up or down, only knowing that she had failed, she had failed, she had failed, failed.
Rainbow!
Sempony was shaking her. Dash reflexively grabbed their forelegs, gripping them tight. She stared up into Applejack's green eyes, worried, but not wide with terror.
You're all right.
I'm fine. It's you I'm worried about. You were screaming so loud and I kept calling your name and shaking you, but you wouldn't wake up.
Applejack bit her lower lip, glancing around the empty carriage.
Another nightmare?
Dash gripped onto Applejack. Her wife was solid and real. Dash inhaled and let it out slowly. She was safe. Applejack was safe. Not smashed to pieces on a metal floor, but here, safe and warm and alive. If she kept saying that to herself, maybe she would stop shaking like a stupid baby.
Yes.
Her voice wobbled traitorously.
Sugar Cube, that wasn't like any normal nightmare I ever saw you have. Maybe we ought to let Twilight take a look at you when we get to Canterlot.
Dash winced.
Twilight's too busy for stuff like that.
She took another steadying breath.
I'll be fine, honest. It was just a bad dream.
A dream where I died?
She froze.
How did
You were screaming my name, begging someone to leave me alone and not kill me.
Applejack said softly.
Then you started crying and wailing for it to not be true and for me to be alive again.
Dash dropped her gaze. She realized she was still holding tight to Applejack's forelegs, as if she might go spinning off back into the nightmare if she let go.
Someone... I couldn't see their face. They... hurt you. Picked you up and threw you at the ground from so high up that you... They broke my legs so I couldn't save you.
On impulse, she flexed her reassuringly unbroken wings. Applejack wiggled a foreleg free to cup Dash's cheek.
That sounds awful.
It was
Dash swallowed.
really awful. I saw everything. And last night, it was Pinkie Pie. And I think cheese sandwich, little cheese, and the cakes.
Applejack frowned.
I really do think we need to talk to Twilight. She's smarter than a whip, even if she does spend all her big brain princessing now. With that eidetic memory of hers, I bet she'd still remember those books on psychology she used to read back when she was a unicorn and thought she was going to be a shrink.
Dash squirmed, uncomfortable with the idea of bothering Twilight over a couple of bad dreams when they only saw each other for a few hours once a month. Yet the image of Applejack hitting the ground, spine rupturing from her back, internal organs spraying out, made a shudder run through her. It had felt too real. She never wanted to have another dream like that again. If Twilight could help with that request.
Yeah, okay. But after we talk to Lusterdon, okay? If we're supposed to reassure the kid to help Twilight keep her on the right track, I don't think that this would help with that.
Okay. But Rainbow...
Applejack's words were swallowed by the kiss Dash pressed on her. It was a desperate, aching sort of kiss. The kind powered by fear, love, desperation, and everything in between.
I'm scared.
The kiss said without words.
I'm scared. I'm confused. And I need you in my corner right now. I love you, Applejack. I love you so much.
I love you too.
Applejack sounded a little confused. Nevertheless, when Dash burrowed against her in a tight hug and did not want to talk more, she simply wrapped her forelegs around her wife and allowed them to complete the train journey in tense silence. The walk from the station to the castle should have been uneventful. Should being the operative word. Instead, what was usually a leisurely flight slowed to match Applejack's hoof steps, but not enough that it was obvious she had done so, became a creeping hover for Dash that was mostly just to be sure her wings were still intact and not piles of crushed gristle on her back.
You doing okay there, Sugar Cube?
Applejack asked carefully. Rainbow Dash nodded.
Only you're wearing an expression like you got a bellyache something fierce.
I'm fine.
She replied tightly. Applejack looked like she wanted to take Dash's forehoof in her own, but they had long since learned that this made for an awkward walk when one was flying and the other walking. Dash considered dropping to the ground to walk alongside her wife, as she sometimes did when Applejack's hips were hurting. Pressing herself against the earth pony's strong side, feeling the way Applejack's muscles rippled under the sunshine coat, was something she could never get tired of. But today, Rainbow Dash stayed in the air, acutely aware of every wing beat, and trying not to wonder why she had been able to dream the sensation of someone stamping on them so graphically and accurately. She tried to distract herself by looking around at the buildings they passed. Canterlot Castle sat on the other side of the city, necessitating either a carriage ride or a long walk from the station. Cabs, drawn by strong-looking ponies, blew past them on the street, the noise of their wheels briefly drowning out voices of Canterlottians they passed. They were currently in the shopping district, not far from Rarity's store. Dash wondered whether Sassy Saddles was working today. Or maybe one of Rarity's other up-and-coming fashionistas was being given a try behind the wheel. Her eyes involuntarily went to the turnoff they would have taken if they'd been headed to the store. Dash wasn't sure why her breath caught in her throat. She did not recognize the brown stallion with the sandy blonde mane and tail waiting on the corner. Like most Canterlot ponies, he wore clothes, a smartly cut black business suit that molded to his frame like a second skin, with creases so precise they looked like they had been laser cut. Unlike most Canterlot ponies, however, he had let his mane grow shaggy and was sporting some designer's stubble on his chin and snout. Dash did not know him. She knew she did not. And yet...
Not another step.
What?
Sugar cube?
Look at what you've done.
Dash stared. She stared at the brown pony on the street corner, and suddenly she knew what it felt like to kick him so hard that she cracked his ribs. She knew what he looked like, covered in blood, staring up at her from a shiny metal floor as she towered over him.
What are you playing at?
You misunderstand. I'm not playing. I'm serious.
Not a matter of winning or losing.
You have so much potential.
A matter of spreading your wings and trying to fly.
I actually thought that maybe I'd found my successor. But I was wrong. Kept being wrong about my successors.
I was only doing what I thought was right.
Go for the others. I'll take care of this one.
There has to be a better way. There has to be some other.
Rainbow Dash shook. She felt her wings beating laboriously, as if the whole world had slowed down around her. The air in her lungs thickened. She could not breathe. She could feel her hooves, but only because they were covered in sticky red blood. She knew that if she looked down, she would see it dripping glutinously off the tips. That brown pony's blood. She had made him bleed because
he betrayed me and everything I worked for. He was weak. Just like you, Dashy.
she knew what it felt like to crush his windpipe. She could feel the crunch of bone under her hooves. She could feel cold metal under her as he knocked her down, and the spike of rage as she got back up again. Between one blink and the next, she felt 1,000 sensations she absolutely knew she had never experienced before.
Dash!
The touch of Applejack's hoof startled her so much that her wings cramped up and she fell out of the air. At the last moment, she managed to spread her hooves and land stiff-legged on the sidewalk, but the impact jolted through every sizzling nerve ending in her body. The air was suddenly too cold, the world too bright and noisy. She stood stock still and closed her eyes, ears pinned back against her scalp. Instantly, Applejack was at her side.
Are you okay?
Fine.
Air flowed freely into her lungs again. She unsqueezed her eyes enough to see the brown pony climbing into a taxi carriage. He had not even noticed the rainbow-maned Pegasus on the other side of the street, eyeballing him before falling over like an old nag too infirm to stay in the air. A collection of ponies with high-pitched voices and neon-coloured clothing trotted past, and she shut her eyes again.
Is she okay?
Asked a voice she did not know.
She's fine. Thanks for asking.
Do you need any help?
The voice insisted.
You ladies both look like you need to sit down.
That statement made a kernel of annoyance flare inside Dash. She was grateful for it. The warmth of it chased the cold from her limbs.
We're not old change just yet.
She felt more than saw the bystander pull away.
I was just trying to help.
And we appreciate it, sugar. Thank you kindly for bothering yourself about us, but we'll be okay. Much obliged to you.
The display of thoroughly polite rejection seemed to do the trick. Dash heard whoever it was sniff a little before trotting away.
Honestly, you try to do a nice thing and ponies just throw it back in your face. This is what's wrong with Equestria today. I never.
Applejack leaned in close. Rainbow Dash could smell the remnants of sweet apple tea on her breath.
What happened, Dash?
I don't know.
Dash admitted.
I saw something.
Like your nightmares?
Kinda, but different. I'm not asleep.
Awake in nightmare, maybe? Your sleep has been getting interrupted a lot lately, and that can do funny things to a pony's mind.
Maybe.
Dash flexed her wings. Still intact, still under her control. Her hooves tingled, which she put down to an improper landing rather than the memory of using them to mash the brown stallion's face. She took a deep breath, opened her eyes, and looked down at herself, gratified to see a complete absence of blood spatters.
I'm okay now.
Forgive me if I don't believe that.
I'm okay as I need to be to get through this thing with Luster Dawn.
Are you sure?
No,
Dash wanted to answer.
I'm not sure at all, and I don't understand what's happening to me, and that's freaking me out.
But she held her tongue.
As sure as sugar in a pink sugar bowl.
The side of Applejack's mouth quirked into a smile that did not reach her eyes.
Hey, that's my line.
Okay, I'm finer than a frog's hair.
That one too!
Dash gave her own false half smile.
When I married you, I married your sayings too. Now are we going to stand here yapping all day, or are we going to get moving? We're going to be the last to arrive at this rate.
Applejack offered her hoof, but Rainbow Dash flapped her wings and hovered up beside her again. Slowly, they moved off toward the castle and their waiting friends, each chewing over her thoughts as she pretended she was fine so as not to worry the other.
Wowee! That sure was fun.
Pinkie Pie hopped along the Ponyville street, cartwheeling to express her joy.
I can't remember the last time we had a sing-along like that.
I believe it was Bright Brownlee's quinceañera, darling.
Rarity lifted her eyes as Pinkie's cartwheel turned into a double flip over their heads.
And do stop jumping about like that. You're making me quite dizzy.
Sorry. I'm just so happy. It felt like old times again. All of us here in Ponyville, helping ponies and singing about friendship being super special awesome.
It did feel pretty good.
Applejack agreed.
Even if ponies did keep staring at us.
Fluttershy added.
But I think that was because we were with the princess, not because we were singing.
Ponyvillians are used to seeing me in town.
Twilight protested. Spike laughed.
Yeah, when you were 4 feet shorter, maybe.
She frowned.
I guess I have been cooped up in Kennerock Castle away from my citizens for a while. But even was the last time we had a friendship council anywhere else? Maybe it's a good thing bringing Luster Dawn to Ponyville happened today. We should try to get together in different places more often.
I like that idea.
Fluttershy smiled.
Discord and I just put a new wing on his pocket dimension. I'd love for you all to see it.
Her friends gave varying degrees of pinched smiles. Discord's dimension was a headache-inducing place, and even if he had been reformed for many years, there was always risk involved in crossing into it that none of them liked taking. Traveling between dimensions of reality was powerful magic with powerful consequences if it went wrong. It did not seem right that he could just snap his fingers and do it in a flash. Dash remembered how last time she and Applejack had crossed over for afternoon tea, Discord closed the door on her midriff for a joke, and she had been genuinely concerned it would chop her in two until he stopped, laughing all the while. She could only imagine what pranks he might pull if all of them crossed over at once.
Ooh! Ooh!
Pinky effervesced like a shaken-up bottle of soda.
How about we hold today's meeting in Sugar Cube Corner? I can close early. I'm sure Pound and Pumpkin will love the afternoon off. And Little Cheese always likes spending quality time with his daddy.
Daddy!
Lil Cheese emerged from his mother's tail in a shower of confetti.
I love my daddy. Can we go to the park and fly the kites Auntie Starlight gave us for heartswarming?
Sure, baby.
Yay!
Pinky nuzzled her son.
How about it, guys? Sound like a good idea?
Well, after you promised him already, how can we say no?
Dash's tone was sharper than intended.
Sure. Sounds like a great idea.
She caught Applejack giving her a look and trotted faster.
Come on, guys. Sugar Cube Corner is this way.
In next to no time, Pound, Pumpkin, Cheese Sandwich, and Lil Cheese had been dispatched, the sign flipped to closed, and Sugar Cube Corner rang with the voices of 6 ponies and 1 dragon. Twilight tried unsuccessfully to fit into a booth, whereupon Pinky dragged chairs to a table in the middle of the floor and insisted everyone sit and chat while she rustled up some treats.
This is nice.
Fluttershy wriggled contentedly in her seat.
Just like old times.
Spike smiled.
Although we took up less table space back then.
He wobbled a little on his own seat.
I don't remember Sugar Cube Corner chairs feeling quite so fragile before.
Well, you have grown some since we were last here, Spike.
Twilight chuckled.
It's still nice, though.
Fluttershy insisted.
All of us together, just spending time with each other. No big crises or problems to solve or anything like that. Just us.
Yeah.
Dash looked around, voice flat as a shadow.
Nice.
She could not help it. Her memories of this place had been tainted by her dreams. She had not thought it possible, but now, wherever she looked, she expected to see the cheery little cafe stretching away into dark, pipe-filled metal. It made her twitchy.
Rainbow Dash?
She realized Rarity had been speaking to her.
Huh?
I said you seem a little jumpy, darling. Is everything all right?
Oh, yeah. Just not been sleeping well lately.
Dash shrugged. There was no point in worrying everyone, especially not before she and Applejack had a chance to speak with Twilight in private.
Work stress. You know how it is.
Oh, I most assuredly do.
Rarity blossomed into a story about Yak-Yakistan, to which Dash only half listened. She felt Applejack take her hoof under the table and returned her reassuring squeeze. They would take Twilight aside and ask her advice before she and Spike departed back to Canterlot, that squeeze said. Dash was once again grateful that she and her wife could say so much to each other without needing to speak out loud.
Could someone give me a hoof for a sec?
Pinky's voice echoed from the kitchen.
I got my main pot in the mixer and I'd really like to not cut it off if I can help it, but the muffins need to come out of the oven before they burn.
I'll go.
Rarity rose from her seat.
I'm sure I've bored you all to tears with my chatter already. I should let somebody else have a turn.
Not at all, Rarity.
Fluttershy objected.
We love hearing your stories.
You remain an endearingly awful liar, Fluttershy, and I adore you for it. I'll go lend a horn to poor Pinky. Rainbow darling, why don't you share what's been happening at your work? I know venting about Yak-Yakistani trade paperwork made me feel better just now.
Rarity trotted away.
Yes, Rainbow.
Twilight smiled across the table.
How are the new recruits at the Wonderbolt Academy doing? Do you have any you think might someday be good enough for the team?
Dash hesitated. While she had indeed been busy at work, it was not the source of her current stress, and she was not sure how to get past that without outright lying. Her pause stretched until it was downright uncomfortable. The clang of metal reverberated from the kitchen, followed by a wet, tearing noise. and a scream. Dash's pupils shrank to pinpricks. Before she could think, she was in motion, wings beating like a hummingbird's as she powered across the cafe and through the door behind the counter that led to the kitchen. Her head was filled with Pinkie Pie's exposed ribs being sucked down into rolling spikes, the wet tearing of flesh, the clang of metal against bloodied metal. Wing beats as fast and strong as her own, pushing her away from saving her friend.
Not again!
She collided with the black body-suited pony and punched it to the ground, away from Pinkie Pie. She kept lashing out, making sure the hateful pony was down. She would not let it happen. She would not let that pony hurt her friend.
Not again! Not again! Not again!
Dashy! Stop it! Please stop! You're hurting her!
Rainbow Dash, stop!
Dash came back to herself in a bright flash of clarity. She was not in the metal room. There was no machine full of spiked rollers, nor was there a body-suited Pegasus. There was just her, standing in Sugar Cube Corner's kitchen, Pinkie Pie hanging off her raised foreleg, Applejack gripping her waist as if trying to drag her backwards, while beneath her, Dash stumbled back, aghast. Rarity had been knocked out by that first unexpected punch, or she would certainly have used her magic to stop Dash beating her face and neck so horribly. The gleam of bone showed through reddened fur where her broken cheekbone poked through. Dash looked down. She had left red hoofprints from where Rarity lay to the corner where she now sank down in a heap. Pinkie sobbed.
Help! Use your magic! Please!
The rest of their friends rushed into the room, equally appalled. Twilight immediately crouched next to Rarity, horn glowing with soft purple gold light that fizzled into her wounds and started healing them.
Rarity!
Sweet Celestia!
Oh my goodness, what happened?
She's bleeding! Twilight, you gotta do something! Rarity's really hurt!
Fluttershy and Spike pulled Pinkie back, slipping a little in spilled batter from the bowl that had fallen to the floor when Rarity telekinetically extracted Pinkie's mane from the mixer with too much force. That must have been the source of the noise and provoked Rarity's scream when some got on her expensive cloak. Such a simple explanation. Yet, in that moment, Dash had been convinced the black-suited Pegasus was here. Applejack looked over at her, eyes wide with emotions Dash was in no position to read right now. Hesitantly, she stepped toward the corner, but Dash threw out her forehooves.
No! I didn't know what I was doing! I thought Pinkie was... I didn't mean to hurt Rarity, honest! I didn't! I don't want to hurt you too!
Hurt me?
Applejack repeated.
Sweetheart, you could never hurt me.
I didn't even see her, AJ! I thought I was saving Pinkie from that pony in my dream!
Dash held her head in her hooves and trembled. She did not understand what was happening to her, and that terrified her more than anything else.
I didn't know what I was doing! I'm sorry!
Twilight,
she heard Applejack say grimly.
when you're done fixing up rares, we need to talk.
So, these nightmares are a recent phenomenon?
I think so. I never usually remember my dreams when I wake up. The first one I can actually remember having was last night.
Dash squirmed in her seat. The office of Sugar Cube Corner's kitchen, where Cheese Sandwich habitually did the business's paperwork, was designed to be functional but cozy. With Twilight, Applejack, and Rainbow Dash in it, it only seemed cramped. Twilight sat behind Cheese's desk across from the pair of chairs on the other side that Rainbow Dash and Applejack had dragged in from the front of Sugar Cube Corner. The desk was a chaos of invoices, receipts, and seemingly hundreds of candy wrappers that had leaked over the edge of the desk and the wastepaper basket beside it. On the corkboard that adorned the wall were pinned a range of important-looking paperwork, as well as photos of Pinky and Lil Cheese, alongside the artfully arranged words, "Do it for them." Applejack tried to lay a hoof on Dash's shoulder. Dash shied away, turning her face so she could not see her wife's expression. She was still wound too tight after what she had done. Rarity was fine. Being treated with the finest healing spells ever created, delivered by the most powerful alicorn who'd ever lived, did wonders for any injury. She had even forgiven Dash already, more concerned for what had instigated the outburst than the damage to her or her cloak. Dash had scrubbed her hooves 3 times in the cafe's restroom, but they still felt slick with her friend's blood.
Rainbow Dash?
Huh?
I asked if you wanted me to have Spike send a letter to Luna for her to walk your dreams and see if it's something magical.
A frisson went down Dash's spine.
Magical?
Or, if you prefer, I can use a spell right now to check for magical residue on you.
You think these dreams ain't natural, Twi?
Asked Applejack. Twilight rubbed her chin with one elegant gold shoe.
I think we should rule it out at least. I don't want another incident like the Tantabus, where if it is magical, it grows beyond our ability to easily remedy before we even know it's there. If I can't find any trace of magic on you, Rainbow Dash, we can look into more mundane explanations.
She lowered both forehooves to the desk.
You went from 0 to 100 in an incredibly short amount of time, Rainbow Dash. From what you've told me, inside of 18 hours, the problem started and progressed to full sensory walking hallucinations. One night of bad sleep does not cause a reaction as dramatic as that. I feel better if I could reassure myself, and you, that the problem is not magical in nature. But if it is, hopefully I can take care of it quickly and simply at such an early stage.
And then I won't have any more dreams of that Pegasus?
Dash asked, not quite managing to keep the desperate note from her voice.
Hopefully.
Twilight reiterated.
And I won't hurt anyone again?
Sweetheart.
Applejack leaned into her field of vision.
That weren't your fault.
She's right, Rainbow. You said yourself, you didn't know what you were doing. You thought you were saving Pinkie Pie from a pretty awful fate. That's actually rather admirable.
I nearly caved in Rarity's skull!
Dash snapped back.
If Pinky and Applejack hadn't stopped me, I might have killed her!
But they did stop you,
Twilight said firmly.
And Rarity is fine now. She doesn't even remember anything that happened.
Rares knows you well enough to know you never do something like that on purpose. We all do. And we want to help you get better from whatever this is.
Applejack tentatively snaked her hoof across to where Dash's folded forelegs were, but Dash was unwilling to unfurl them.
Rainbow Danger Dash, look at me. Come on, look at me. Please?
It was the please that did it. Dash met Applejack's eyes and felt somewhat shamed by the love shining there. Applejack's gaze silently promised that she had full faith in Dash's integrity, and she knew Dash was not a bad pony. Dash just wished that she felt the same way, or trusted herself as much as Applejack did. She took a deep breath.
Can you take a look at me, Twilight? I don't want to have to wait for Luna to get here.
Sure, Rainbow.
What do I have to do?
Actually, very little. Just sit there and let me scan you with my horn.
Really? That's it? I don't have to be asleep first?
I'm just looking to see if you've been touched by magic in any unusual way that might explain these episodes. If I find anything, that's when we do a deeper dive into your dreams. And if that's the case, Luna really would be more of an expert than me.
She swallowed thickly.
Okay.
Applejack touched her forelegs again. It took a moment, but eventually Dash unfolded them and allowed her wife to clasp her hooves.
I'll stay right here with you,
Applejack promised.
Is it okay if I'm holding her like this, Twilight?
To be honest, it'd be better if you weren't. Your biorhythms might interfere with the thaumaturgical data I'm trying to retrieve and concurrently mentally process.
I'll pretend I understood that and restate I want to stay as close to Dash's side as I'm allowed until you're done.
That's perfectly okay. Being in the same room won't change anything. I just need Rainbow to not be physically touching any pony else while I scan her.
Dash nodded and closed her eyes as Twilight's horn ignited. She had been touched by Twilight's magic before. Carried, pushed, shoved, scooped up, dumped down, and knew to expect a tingling like being rubbed with wax-coated feathers. She twitched a little when the sensation started in the tips of her hind hooves, but otherwise remained still, hoping that would make the whole thing go quicker. This time, however, a small knot of cold also sprang to life in her belly the moment the tingling started. It pulsed in time with her heartbeat, becoming more pronounced the further up her body Twilight's magic went. By the time Twilight had reached her haunches, Dash's breathing had quickened, and her entire ribcage felt like someone had put an iron band around it.
Sweet Celestia!
Twilight, what's happening?
Twilight moved her magic to Dash's midriff, right over the swirling ball of cold something. Dash nearly screamed. It felt like a black hole had opened up inside her, sucking all warmth away from her limbs. Her bones were made of frost, and her blood was nothing but ice water. More cold swept through her, nestling in the base of her skull and pulsing outward.
Useless! Failure! You passed your flight test and still did nothing with your life? How dare you waste all your potential doing stupid tricks for brainless crowds like some trained dog! You were the pride of Cloudsdale, and you threw it all away! For what? A life on the ground with a fucking mud pony? You're a disgrace!
Twilight, why is she shaking like that?
Applejack, stay back. Don't touch her.
But she's having a seizure!
Don't touch her!
Rainbow Dash, sweetheart, can you hear me?
Dash could hear, but do nothing to indicate it. She was dimly aware of toppling from her chair, but was too caught up in the voice filling her mind.
You had a chance at everything, and instead you settled for nothing! Less than nothing! You're a traitor to your kind! A deserter! Nothing but ground-bound garbage! You don't deserve your wings!
Her back arched, and her eyes flew open, but she could see nothing except writhing, purple-black effervescence. It crowded her vision, undulating like a cauldron of boiling slime.
What is that? What the fuck is that?
It's magic of some kind.
It's all over her.
It has been all along. My own magic's just making it manifest physically. It's reacting to my spell.
Well, get it off her then.
I'm trying.
I gave up everything and everyone to make the factory thrive. I gave back to the city that made me. And what did you do? Stuck your hooves into mud and into mud ponies. Left Cloudsdale to decline and become no more important than any other city. You should have your wings cut off because you sure as shit aren't a Cloudsdale Pegasus.
Dash's chest seemed about to explode. Was this what having a heart attack felt like? No fair. She had eaten right and exercised for years to stay healthy. She could not die here, not like this, not on the floor like this. She could not leave Applejack all alone. Applejack?
Pathetic!
Why was her mouth moving?
I can't believe that this is what I am! This is worse than being a blood test failure! Fucking an earth pony is not just failing, it's unnatural!
Rainbow Dash?
That's not rainbow talking. That's the dark magic. I brought it right to the surface.
Dash's entire midriff shattered in a rush of heat and shimmering purple-black power. Her mouth opened in a silent scream, spine forming a crescent. The cold rushed out of her, spiraling up and out. Through the thrumming in her ears, she heard a cry. Twilight continued to cry out. Cold continued to flow out of Dash. The two seemed intertwined, thinning together until Dash could not tell one from the other. Her senses merged, culminating in a strangled sob from her own throat and one last burst of bitter bright agony.
Failures belong in the Pegasus device!
Then, abruptly, the cold was gone. Her body was hers to control again. Dash slumped back, turning onto her side to cough violently.
Rainbow Dash!
Applejack was at her side in an instant.
Twilight, can I touch her yet? Twilight? Twilight?
A new note of panic entered Applejack's voice.
Are you okay?
I'll be fine. I just took a lot more out of me than I expected.
Twilight got shakily to her hooves.
Wow. That was, as Pinky might say, a doozy.
Pinky might say, what the hey is going on in here?
Pinky shouted, perched atop her party cannon, whose barrel was leveled into the room.
In fact, I do say it! What the hey is going on in here? And what the heck is that?
She jabbed a hoof. Dash squinted. Her vision was blurry, but she could just make out what looked like a tiny ball of purple-black goo hanging in the air above her. It undulated as if trapped inside an invisible sphere, and extremely unhappy with this fact.
That,
Twilight grunted,
is what caused Rainbow Dash to attack Rarity. It's magic of some sort, definitely dark in nature. It was lodged inside Rainbow Dash. It started in her stomach, but had wormed its way right through her body, into her neural network. It was so deep into her cortex, I'm not surprised it was affecting her dreams.
It's making my first stand on end! Yuck!
I've trapped it in this containment spell.
Twilight absently made a spherical motion with her forehooves.
I can take it back to Canterlot and study it to find out what it is and how dangerous it might be.
But it's definitely out of Rainbow Dash now?
Twilight nodded.
I just don't know how it got into her in the first place. This is powerful stuff. Whoever cast it had to be wielding a tremendous amount of power.
I think I know where it came from.
Sniffing the air delicately, Fluttershy edged around the party cannon to slip through the door, Rarity close on her heels.
I recognize that smell.
What smell?
Rarity also pointed her nose delicately in the air.
I don't smell anything.
When you spend half your time in a dimension surrounded by chaos magic, you learn to recognize its smell.
Fluttershy's brow furrowed.
Especially when it turns up when it's not supposed to.
Discord did this?
Anger fizzed through Applejack's voice like electricity from a whipping cable too close to a pool of water.
I don't know. I just know that it smells of chaos magic.
Fluttershy touched the elaborate flower clip tying up her mane.
And I intend to find out why.
She tapped firmly on it 5 times and turned it counterclockwise. In a sudden burst of smoke, Discord appeared in front of her. He was decked out in a cap with a tiny ogre on the front and a t-shirt bearing the words, "How can you marry an O&O player? You ask him for a D8 first." His wide smile and raised paw both dropped when he realized where he was.
What the? Fluttershy? Didn't I tell you to only use the summoning charm in an absolute emergency? I was about to meet Ari Adax. Do you even know who that is?
Discord?
He's one half of the duo who created Ogres and Oubliettes. And I was going to meet him before you summoned me to...
Belatedly, he looked around, taking in the 5 angry-looking ponies, 1 angry dragon, and 1 prone pony breathing laboriously on the floor. He returned his gaze to Fluttershy, as if she held all the answers to all possible questions.
You look mad. Why do you look mad?
Fluttershy pointed to the floating ball of purple-black magic.
Why was that inside Rainbow Dash?
Huh?
Discord slithered over, poking it with a talon. It bubbled furiously, but stayed inside the containment spell.
I don't know. It was inside the lovely but apparently very sleepy Rainbow Dash, you say?
Discord!
Twilight warned. He waved his paw.
I know. Believe me, O most princessly of princesses. I'm eager to fix this little problem for you as soon as possible so I can go back to the convention I was so rudely plucked from right before I met Arya Dax.
Fluttershy cleared her throat.
Discord, I'd really appreciate it if you tell us how a piece of your dimension got stuck in my friend's stomach.
It's been causing her all sorts of problems.
Applejack scowled.
Problems?
Discord cupped the sphere and passed it from paw to paw like a baseball player before making a pitch.
What sort of problems?
Succinctly, Twilight told him. Dash, who had few other places to look, watched the rest of her friends' faces as they listened. Pinky's whole expression crumbled when she heard how Dash had watched her die so horribly and been trying to save her from that fate when she had mistakenly attacked Rarity.
Oh, Dashy!
You poor dear,
Rarity added. Discord blew a large pink bubble using gum he had definitely not been chewing when he arrived. It popped on his face and then levitated off to float next to the ball of dark magic, leaving nothing but smooth fur where his features used to be. The bubblegum started talking using the facsimile of his lips.
Well now, it seems that there has been a tiny, small, very little mishap after my frankly hilarious prank on Rainbow Dash when she last visited dear sweet Fluttershy and myself for tea.
Fluttershy blinked.
You did what?
Applejack's scowl deepened.
He closed the portal on Dash's body when she was halfway through and scared her half to death that it was going to cut her in half.
She squealed like a stuck piggy. It was hilarious.
Bubblegum Discord chortled before noticing Fluttershy's expression and smothering his laughter.
But comedy styling aside, it seems there was a side effect I did not predict.
He twirled a talon, and the bubblegum reshaped into the likeness of Rainbow Dash and Applejack walking through the portal to his pocket dimension. The portal snapped closed, and Dash wriggled, held in place around her waist. Applejack rushed back to tug at her forelegs until she popped free, and a bubblegum Discord himself appeared, laughing uproariously. Discord's real body uncapped a marker pen and drew an uneven mouth on his head, which said,
It seems that when you were touched by the dimensional void, dear Dashy, you absorbed some of it into your body. It's a 1 in a million chance. But then again, I suppose myself and my powers are indeed 1 in a million.
Get to the point!
Dash grated. With a noise like stones being thrown into a tar pit, 2 eyes popped into being above the inexpertly drawn mouth.
You caught a dimensional echo, my dear.
Oh, what?
Twilight demanded.
A dimensional echo. A multiverse resonance.
Discord raised a thumb to his mouth and blew on it. His regular features returned with a squelch.
A snapshot of a life not lived. A what might have been.
Start making sense,
snapped Applejack. Discord sighed.
It really is quite simple. There are many different universes out there, separated by dimensional walls beyond your mortal brain's ability to comprehend. Though not all, some are created by divergent decisions, new timelines where we made different choices than we did in this one. When dear Dashie was, caught in my prank, most of the dimensional wall passed harmlessly through her butt, an echo of herself from another universe. Snagged.
Are you telling us?
Twilight said, quietly but coldly.
That Rainbow Dash had another version of herself trapped inside her?
Sort of. It's just an echo.
Discord shrugged.
Did you trap a living soul in her?
He rolled his eyes. Literally. They came to a stop by Twilight's golden shoes.
No, you silly filly. I already said it's a dimensional echo. The real pony and real soul are still alive and kicking in whatever universe she lives and kicks in. And it's so small, it looks like you got it out of her before it rooted itself too deep.
Rooted itself?
The longer an echo exists inside a corporeal being, the more it thinks it's real. It's not, but it thinks it is. And if it roots itself into a neural network enough to consume a creature's mind and take over its body as its own, well, then things become sticky.
Dash wanted to shudder. That thing had been trying to take over her mind and body like a parasite.
So if it's not really alive, we can get rid of that nasty icky thing?
Pinky asked.
Certainly. Getting rid of a dimensional echo is like burning a photograph. You just destroy the record of the moment you took if you burn the photograph. You don't burn the real pony who's in it. Burning ponies is bad. Fluttershy taught me it's poor form to randomly set ponies on fire, even if the fire doesn't actually harm them.
Discord stuffed his eyes back into their sockets.
In fact, in the interest of getting back to my convention, I'll get rid of this particular dimensional echo for you right now.
He grabbed the containment spell, unsheathed a claw, and punctured it.
Like so.
Purple-black magic exploded into the room. Dash weakly cried out when Applejack threw herself on top of her, shielding Dash's body with her own. Obscured by undulating power, she heard her friends squeal in shock and fright.
Discord! What did you do?
Twilight thundered.
You think I can get rid of it while it's contained in your spell? Mixing magics, Twilight, is a very dangerous idea, which I should have thought you would know.
Somewhere in the melee, Fluttershy's squeal cut through his words.
Get it off me! It's in my vein! It's in my vein! Buzz off, bozo, or you'll be eating my party cannon!
Twilight! Do something!
Discord! Fix this now!
You're all pathetic.
Somewhere in the surging magic, Dash heard her own voice, made raspy almost beyond recognition by a life she had never endured.
Good for nothing but the spectra you produce. What kind of Equestria is this? Where weaklings like you are left to fester and drag the rest of us down. I was the best, and you ruined me.
Stay the fuck away from my wife, you no-good varmint!
Applejack's growl reverberated through where her chest pressed down on Dash. A figure rippled in and out of view. Spread wings, pricked ears, arched neck. Its outline wobbled as if it was made of fog, and its eyes shifted from rose pink to impenetrable black and livid purple, an immutable mixture of Rainbow Dash's own eyes mixed with dark magic. Her other self glared out at her, scouring Dash through with their blatant hatred.
You ruined me!
Her other self leapt. Dash felt Applejack tense, trying to protect her wife. Something sinuous sprang forward, placing itself between them and the Echo Dash. Discord? The world seemed to slow down until everything was halted in one perfect, awful, crystalline moment. The sudden breath before falling off the edge of a precipice. The moment shattered. Twilight's glowing horn pierced the Echo Dash's throat, passing right through. Discord snapped his fingers. The world detonated in warring light and dark energies that swelled and flowed over everything and everyone like smoke. Wherever they touched, they provoked gasps. When they reached Dash, she felt Applejack spasm like she was having a fit, but was too swept away in the images playing through her own mind to think of anything else. Her flight test. The memory came clear and true. She remembered that day. She remembered the ponies who approached her after she scored her record-breaking round. What she did not remember was saying yes. She knew she had said no, had chosen her dreams of joining the Wonderbolts over making the Cloudsdale Weather Factory her career. Being a weather pony was only a temporary job to pay the bills until she made it into the academy. Yet she witnessed equally clear and true memories of abandoning those aspirations and instead being ushered into a place hidden deep within the weather factory where both ponies and dreams went to die. She witnessed sniveling fillies and colts younger than her who had failed their tests, saw them being led into an all-too-familiar atrium lined with metal pipes and centering a ravenous machine with spiked roller teeth. She learned what the machine did, extracted spectra, the pigment needed to create rainbows, a sacred duty given to the Cloudsdale Pegasi hundreds of years ago by Celestia herself. She watched as those fillies and colts were chained up, twisted, broken beyond repair, and then their sobbing, bleeding bodies dropped into the machine to produce the spectra that Cloudsdale needed. She keenly felt her national pride stoked by ponies around her, taking on a dark edge like a knife in a nightmare. It was right that these failures were used for their spectra. It was right that they should die so Cloudsdale could keep its pride. It was right for her to be director, overseeing it all, making sure the Rainbow Factory ran smoothly. She even started to think it was right that her friend, the element of kindness, would better serve ponykind as pigment than a weak, useless, wannabe mud pony who embarrassed her sovereign city more and more with every ground-bound year. Everything was progressing as it should, until her.
I thought you loved me!
The grief seared, hot and raw. So did the fury.
You have beautiful eyes.
An orange filly, primed to join her in her leadership, instead relegated to the failures. Her protege, useful for nothing more than the pigment and magic in her cells. Her own personal embarrassment, far worse than the stupid, weak yellow Pegasus. Defiant, rebellious, proud to have failed.
You can't have happiness, you stupid imposter! You ruined me! You ruined me! You ruined me!
The last of Echo Dash's essence fizzled away on the edge of her scream. Soon, the only noise in the little office was that of Twilight's glowing horn.
That was very stupid, Princess.
Discord tilted his head to one side and tapped, as if checking to make sure none of the dark magic was trapped in his ear canal.
Mixing chaos magic with alicorn magic and dimensional magic. I thought better of you.
He shrugged.
Still, it all worked out in the end. I'll be going now.
He made to walk out the door.
See you later, Fluttershy.
Discord.
Fluttershy's whisper was so soft, it was almost missed. He paused.
I don't think I'll be coming by for a while. I need some time away from you.
He blinked, nonplussed.
What?
You shouldn't be alone right now, darling. You can stay with me.
Rarity slung a foreleg over her shoulders and glared at Discord.
You really have no idea what you've done, do you?
I admit the prank went a bit too far, but...
Discord!
Fluttershy could not meet his eye.
Didn't you see any of that?
Any of what?
Those memories from the other Dashi.
Pinky looked like she was about to be sick.
We all saw them, right?
She looked from face to face.
What did?
Applejack said, voice dull.
Felt him too.
Well, of course I saw them, but why is that a problem?
Discord spread his arms wide.
They weren't real.
They were real enough.
Spike drew himself up.
You better go back to your convention now, Discord.
Discord looked between them, realization dawning of just how badly he had screwed up.
Fluttershy, I didn't mean...
Please don't.
There were tears in Fluttershy's eyes.
I need some time to process what I saw.
She flicked her gaze to Dash, but just as quickly looked away again.
I know it wasn't really you, Rainbow, but it felt so much like you that I need some time.
We all do.
Rarity's blue eyes were leaden with unwanted knowledge. Dash struggled to sit up.
I'm sorry.
She noted how Fluttershy winced at the scratchiness of her voice, so close to her other selves, yet a lifetime apart.
It wasn't me, Shy. I never do any of those things. Never think those things about you, or Applejack, or anything.
Fluttershy paused before saying,
I know, Rainbow.
I think this party is over. Is it safe for us to leave, Twilight?
Pinky asked. Twilight seemed distracted.
Oh, yeah. It's safe to go.
She tried to open her wings, but the small space was too cramped for that.
I will too. I have some things to think about myself.
I think we all do.
Rarity started to lead Fluttershy away.
None of us are going to forget what we just saw and felt anytime soon.
Pinky paused in slowly wheeling her party cannon out the door. She seemed to want to speak, but nothing would come out. Finally, she just shook her head and left. Twilight trotted briskly through the gap left behind by the cannon, leaving Spike with Discord, Applejack, and Rainbow Dash. Spike seemed surprised that she would leave without him, but instead of following her like he would have done when he was younger, he turned and helped Applejack leave a rainbow to her feet. Discord, downcast, snapped his fingers and vanished without a word.
Do you two need help getting back to Sweet Apple Acres?
Spike asked.
Be much obliged, Spike. Sweetheart, you up to walking?
Dash lurched at her. Applejack flinched instinctively away, but the momentum carried Dash into collision. Only then did Applejack seem to realize it was a hug.
Oh! It wasn't me! It wasn't me! I would never! I wouldn't! All those falls, AJ! What she did to all those
Never. You're nothing like her.
I am her, AJ. All it took was one different choice, and I would be her. Oh, Celestia. She's me, and I'm her, and I'm capable of...
Only when Applejack fiercely returned the hug did Dash allow herself to break. She sobbed into her wife's chest, racked by the grief of a lifetime she had not chosen and the children she had not murdered. Scootaloo plopped her quill into the inkwell and stretched luxuriously. She hated grading papers, but Headmare Starlight Glimmer got what Headmare Starlight Glimmer wanted when it came to admin. Scootaloo did not regret becoming a teacher at the School of Friendship, but if there was anything she would change, it was all the paperwork. Sweetie Belle and Apple Bloom had both finished their quotas hours ago and retreated to the faculty quarters. If the students had not expected their grades back tomorrow, Scootaloo might have done the same. Now, however, she was finally done and could... The classroom door opened. Scootaloo looked up, expecting Vice Principal Trixie to be there, berating her for still being here. It would not be the first time. Scootaloo was dedicated to her job, if not exactly quick with her admin, and had a prepared protest all ready. It died on her lips.
Huh?
It was not Vice Principal Trixie.
Princess Twilight? What brings you to the Friendship School so late?
Princess Twilight stepped into the candlelight. Scootaloo squinted.
Is something wrong?
The princess's eyes were odd. The irises shifted from her usual purple to a lighter shade, almost rose pink, fringed with undulating purple-black. When she smiled, it, too, was oddly sharp and humorless, as if she knew the punchline to a joke Scootaloo was not in on. It made the hairs on the back of Scootaloo's neck stand on end, and she was suddenly acutely aware of how empty the School of Friendship was this late in the evening.
Princess Twilight?
Hello, Absentia.
I've missed you.
Something about you is different. Some kind of energy's messing with all the chemicals in my brain. Feel the temperature rising. That look in your eyes paralyzing. Forever you're never leaving my face. Heart is racing here now. Never wanna wait out. I want you right up to the end. Oh, you know what I'm feeling, even if it doesn't make sense. You don't have to guess, no. You're a mind reader. Mind reader. chemicals in my brain. Feel the temperature rising. That look in your eyes paralyzing. Forever you'll never